truth, meaning, trade-offs, and perspective.
Hi, everybody. We're excited to share the debut of our new podcast, Anecdotes with Matt and Paul. I am Paul. I'm a lifelong educator and entrepreneur. And my co-host here is Matt. He is a lifelong entrepreneur and educator. We're going to take a couple minutes today to explain how we came up with the concept for this podcast and what we're going to be talking about in the future. We will repeat it at the end, but our debut first episode will be Sunday, March 14th. So welcome, Matt. Good to see you.
Great seeing you. Looking forward to this. We've been talking about it for a while. I'm excited to get going, huh?
Yes. So it all started, Matt is a staunch supporter and mentor for all my students in the class and the academy I teach at. You'll get to learn more about what I do as an educator and entrepreneur, and of course, what Matt does as an entrepreneur and educator throughout the episodes of the podcast. But Matt came in to talk to our students one time, and he started talking about these 4 pillars he has and how everybody's story and life circumstance comes down to these 4 pillars. And they're not all equal. There's different aspects or different times in your life where one pillar might be more meaningful and you might be stressing it more than other times in your life. So I'm going to turn it over to Matt now, and he's going to be talking about the 4 pillars, which we're going to incorporate in every single episode.
Yeah, we are. And I think it's only natural because they're incorporated in everything we do and everything we discuss. And, even conversations I've had with friends or, my brothers or my family, that kind of thing. It's actually funny to try to talk through things and look at, well, where are the pillars fit in this? Or my daughter, we both have daughters who are similar in age, who are in early 20s, and same idea. And, just to back up a little bit. So the idea behind the pillars, and of course, Paul knows this, but for our audience here is, I was coming into Paul's classroom and I was going to talk to the students, and normally I'll talk to your entrepreneurship students, but in this particular case, I was going to talk to students who were in other areas as well, health and in a multitude of areas. And so the genesis of it was I was kind of thinking, well, how do I give these kids something worthwhile rather than just my corny jokes and whatever I had to say that day. And
that aren't even that funny, really. Your jokes.
Not at all. And overdone. So I was just kind of going through my mind, and while I'm driving, while I'm getting ready for bed, those kinds of things. And I'm thinking through these things, and everything was coming down to the same 4 pillars, which we end up calling them. But I kind of was thinking, what are the foundations of success in life? And whether we're talking about business, which you and I talk about all the time. I mean, Paul and I talk more than just on podcasts. Whether it's business, whether it's education, whatever happens to be in your life that's important and means success to you, and that's the point of this. These 4 pillars have a role in it, and as you pointed out, some more than others, not all equal, and not even all together at all times. So it's interesting to discuss them and look at them and how they influence and impact people's lives. And we thought, what a great opportunity to share things with people and look at these pillars. And my theory is this: if you focus on these 4 things and understand how they work within your life, success is going to be that much simpler. And I don't think anybody's going to sit here and pretend success is easy, or will even define it the same way, of course. But those 4 pillars are going to help anyone under any circumstances with success.
So to reveal the 4 pillars, it's no secret because they're in the title of our podcast. But the 4 pillars are truth, meaning, trade-offs, and perspective. And every single story we're going to come up with, and when we have guests on our podcast, we're going to be focusing on these pillars with their stories. They're there. And let's start with truth, Matt.
Yeah. They are there, like you said. Every single thing I can come up with or we talk about, there they are. And the first truth was, as I was thinking about, what to tell the students is kind of the first thing that popped in my head is don't lie to yourself. You need to understand the truth, whatever, and the truth, it can be complicated, of course, but you have a responsibility to find the truth. Don't listen to everybody else. Don't lie to yourself. Don't be an ideologue where, hey, I'm a part of whatever the group is, and whatever the group thinks, well, that's what I think. You have a responsibility to yourself, yeah, your family, your community. You have a responsibility to finding what the truth is, and that takes effort sometimes. It's not, it's not as easy as a Google search all the time. It takes educating yourself, reading, talking to other people, being willing to talk and listen and relearn things, fail, realize that maybe you were wrong. But the first thing to me is always truth. I've got to do my best, and it's not easy. I'm 45 years old. I don't know the truth about everything, and I'm sure I'm wrong about plenty, but I've got a responsibility to go, what is the truth in this situation?
And I always think that has a lot to do with stepping out of your comfort zone, to throw a little cliche in there, and then being a lifelong learner for cliche number 2. You can't just surround yourself by like-minded people, because the truth gets skewed at that point. Doesn't that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. You got that group think, and you're right. Those cliches are sometimes cliches for a reason, but it's you truly have a responsibility to dig a little deeper and find out where the truth is there. And it's not easy, but if you want to succeed, you have to be willing to do that, because otherwise you're only going to end up hurt yourself. So truth is pillar number 1.
Awesome. Let's get on to pillar number 2. It's meaning. We had a whole conversation at one point what the exact word for this pillar is, but we went with meaning. So go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, we did. And I knew this was going to come up. Meaning is the other one we were talking about was purpose, whether it should be purpose or meaning, and we settled on meaning. And I think we both agree meaning is the right term, but you can look at purpose as well in a very similar way. And I remember saying to your class, and I've said it since then, is, so often people are trying to think, well, what's the meaning of life, right? It's life's greatest question. Why are we here? What's the meaning of all this? My kind of retort to that is the meaning of all this is meaning. It is to find something that matters to you. I don't care if it's a business or education or religion or, taking care of your community or whatever you're passionate about. Find meaning in it. I always want to use the term carry the biggest load you can in terms of taking on that level of responsibility, and that will give you meaning. And you're a great example of this in some of your stories. And here we are. Why are you taking your free time to do this? Because I assume you find some meaning in it, right?
100%.
And
I always like to say, finding your meaning can technically evolve and change a little as you grow and age, correct?
It has for me.
And so there's a fine line between always chasing your meaning or pursuing your meaning. There's a fine line between being obedient to what you think your goals are and to being disciplined for a bigger cause. And we'll dive into that as well. But your meaning should be ever evolving. It shouldn't become a passion that you put the blinders on and pursue. It's going to evolve, correct?
Agreed. And we'll get into that going forward as well.
All right. So now for the third pillar, it's trade-offs and basically choices.
Yeah, choices, making good decisions, trade-offs. And one of the things that kind of opened my eyes in life was I discovered through just personal experience, but also through reading a lot, is there's trade-offs to everything. There are no solutions in a sense. Everything's got a trade-off to it. And as soon as I realized that I was always making a choice between one thing or another, it was never this. It was this versus that. Sleeping in versus getting up and working hard. Putting in those extra reps in the gym or going or not. And if you don't put in those extra reps, that's totally fine. That's up to you. But the trade-off is what? less strength, less explosiveness, whatever you're training for. Everything's got a trade-off. There are no exceptions to that rule. You're making a trade-off in everything you do. And that's when you realize that and understand that, you can make better decisions.
Yes, and it's so important to be aware of this. What I go through with my students, they're all honor students. The next step for them is to trade off time and money to go to college. And we'll get more into that on future episodes, but I'm almost challenging them to ask themselves why that's the trade-off they have to make. There's a lot of other scenarios that might involve having a better future than just jumping into a lot of debt and a lot of college. So that's the type of stuff we're talking about.
Absolutely.
All right. So last pillar, perspective. Talk to us, Matt.
Yeah, perspective was the one that I had probably the most trouble with putting into words, and where it came from was I've realized in my life, and I see it in many people's lives, especially people who are having difficulty, is they're not putting things into perspective, and you hear that term a lot, put it into perspective, but by perspective I mean, where were you? Where'd you start? Where are you now? I think it's super important to understand when you say I'm succeeding or I'm not succeeding, what are you comparing it to? I always like to say when I talk about perspective, compared to what? So if I say I failed, compared to what? I succeeded, compared to what? I need that. We all need that perspective in order to weigh how we're doing, in order to weigh how good things are or bad things are. It's very easy, especially appears to be today, to get very much caught up into how bad everything is, or even how good everything is. Well, come back to the question, compared to what? Give yourself some perspective, and whatever you're doing in life, perspective is going to, I think, keep you grounded and keep you moving in the right direction, on the right path. It certainly has helped me. And again, everything we're going to talk about going forward, perspective is going to come in there in some sense.
That's awesome. And it's funny, I'll have students and friends and family and just people I meet always ask why I'm so positive. Why am I so happy? And I'll say, well, I'm technically not, because it's impossible to be happy and positive all the time. But it's the perspective I use that I know I'm positively going to get through every bad day. I'm positively going to rise up over my circumstances. And I think that's part of what we're talking about with perspective, correct?
100%. It gives you the power, you and your particular story, or anyone's power, to say, I'm going to choose how I'm going to tackle this, right? I don't have to, it doesn't have to be the end of the world. I'm taking ownership of this, and having perspective will allow you to do that. And that's just going to only lead you to make better choices and have more success in whatever avenue you're pursuing.
All right, this is awesome. So I'm excited. We've explained our 4 pillars. We've explained the purpose of this podcast, and I think we're going to build some excitement before our debut on March 14th. And I think listeners are going to get this, Matt. They're going to laugh with us. They're going to cry with us. We're going to get better at our dumb jokes, correct? And we'll have some good guests on. And if they don't learn to like our jokes, they'll start just accepting them, at least, correct? So, all right. Well, that's it for today. And stay tuned. March 14th, episode 1. See you guys.